even more brilliant people in the audience who are smart enough to keep it quiet, as all the Buddhist types always say, the smart folks are the listeners that are hiding in the audience. But I can now see your bios due to my new special updated version of Clubdeck. I can search and see who has expertise on different topics, and they're often sending me DMs about special points that they want to share without jumping on stage, and we appreciate that. The other thing we have is the Twitter account, which is Tech News Around the World, which you can see by clicking on the title of this room, where you'll see all of the upcoming events like Ben and Amay and Monica and Heyman and Dave, and everyone's got these fantastic deep dive rooms, we call them. And there's also the Twitter account, which if you find a good headline on Twitter, you can tweet it and include our Twitter account so that I get a notification, and then I will retweet it to the whole room, like I will be doing. So please do follow the Tech News Around the World Twitter account, and I will be retweeting some of the best articles and tweeting out all of the headlines that we talk about in this room. Basically, I tweet from the Twitter account, so you can look into the articles that we're talking about and read them and like them and save them, bookmark them, follow up on them later, do the deep dive if you find that topic interesting. And that's what we do. So let's go ahead and do that. And I have a huge stack of headlines from around the world as usual, but we've got a bunch of people on stage from medtech and fintech and crypto and Bitcoin and green tech, and every stripe of tech you can imagine is represented on stage here, which is why this is such a fun room to dissect all of the news. But open popcorn. Who has a headline they would like to share first? Nobody? I will go first then. So for those helping on the Google Doc, please notice that we are now at 33 minutes after the hour. So we'll make a new entry at 33. You can watch me do this now in real time. 33. There we go. And we will do the first headline, which is about Apple versus Epic. They have this huge trial going, and Apple CEO Tim Cook just took the witness stand just a few hours ago, and the whole tech sphere is talking about this. Washington Post, The Verge, Bloomberg, Economic Times, BBC, Mashable, Engadget, literally everybody, even CNBC. And the kind of summary is they're saying that Apple CEO Tim Cook faces sharp questioning from the judge in the Epic trial, and Epic, in addition to facing the sharp questioning, basically the summary is that he is offering very carefully tended ignorance that left many of the lawsuit's key questions unanswered or unanswerable. And they're even saying that basically Cook has said he doesn't remember the exact number of how much Google pays to be the default search engine on the iPhone, even in Safari, and says he doesn't know if the Department of Justice estimate on this amount is correct. So he really has no idea how much Google pays, which is one of their biggest partnerships in all of Apple land, is how much Google pays to be the search engine. He, as the CEO, almost certainly does not know that. But just to give you context, due to his testimony on the stand, he's basically saying, I don't know, to every question that the judge is throwing at him. He also says he doesn't know why Google did the deal. He said he's quoted as saying you would have to ask them what they're paying for. So he's being kind of widely criticized, although some people found a humorous point in he revealing the fact that he's not a gamer. So when he's asked questions about, this is a very critical issue in this trial, is about the video game nature of Epic Games and Fortnite and why they're being charged 30%. And the fact of whether or not it's a game is actually critically important, because one of Apple's points in this case, you might even say the main point, is that because they are a video game, is my mic not on, Cal?
News, and we add that, but also directly amongst us. So when we, for example, have a new room, as I'm focused on inclusivity, so it's AI for good, for example, or tech for impact. Those are the things I'm passionate about. I run rooms on that. So over time, you will see depending on what your interest lies, you will find these rooms. But very important is that you also in your profile, you select the topics which you are interested in, so that in your hallway you get the information in. And then it's also important that you follow people and have other following you, because that's the magic way how this community works. So I just want to state that. So I would love to talk to you and learn more about you, what you're doing, but I need a way to contact you. This is Florian and then speaking.
And Yusuf, this is LS. I love what you're doing, brother. Just put more details in your bio. Don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Tanzania, Africa. My son's Ethiopian. Well, half Ethiopian because I'm African American. But just put everything, okay? Because you're right. He's right. This is Clubhouse. If you do Twitter, if you do Instagram, but also email and your contact phone number. If you have one and you're not afraid, just do more disclosure versus less.
Okay, Tyler, you there?
Yep, I'm back.
Oh, he's back.
Welcome back, Tyler.
Thank you. Where did I get cut off?
You just you got cut off a while back.
Yeah,
you were talking about
just as you were launching the launching into the news,
Yep.
so we got nothing.
Okay.
But what we did was we just stalled because our star content creator needs to be back. So we were just listening to some new. Yeah,
We're just
that's
going
where we
through
are.
the party hits, yeah.
Okay.
So
we're at the first story of the day. Basically, is about the big Apple versus Epic trial. And the Apple CEO, Tim Cook, took the stand. And my mic is working now, right? Just double checking. Okay.
You're good.
Perfect,
You're working.
perfect.
You're working now.
So the big story is Apple has this huge trial with Epic Games, the maker of Fortnite. And this has been going on for quite a few days now. And it's a very important trial because it's about the tax that Apple is charging in the App Store, which is 30%. And it's been revealed as part of this trial, for example, that Apple is making $50 million a year just off of one app in the App Store, which is Fortnite. And there's millions and millions of apps in the App Store. So you can do the math and figure out how many billions of dollars Apple is making from taking 30% of the money inside the Apple App Store. And so Tim Cook, Apple CEO, took the stand and faced very sharp questioning from the judge, is being widely reported. And the reason this case is getting so much attention is because they're being accused of being a monopoly because it's basically them and Google. And Apple is saying, whoa, not so fast, because Epic Games, the maker of Fortnite, is not only on Apple and on Google, they're also on the Sony PlayStation and on the Microsoft Xbox and on this platform and on that platform. They're on 10 different gaming platforms. It's not just 2 smartphones. And so the question of is Fortnite a game? And if it's a game, it has multiple platforms. There's no monopoly between just the duopoly of Apple and Google. And so it's now forcing the game companies to say, no, we're not games. We are experiences, and it's turning into a really interesting legal verbiage kind of scenario. But basically, Tim Cook, Apple CEO, on the stage is being widely criticized today because in his very recent testimony, he basically denied any knowledge of anything, and every question was met with what they called carefully tended ignorance that left many of the lawsuit's key questions unanswered or unanswerable. And as an example, when asked about how much Google pays to be the default search engine, which is perhaps the most important partnership that Apple has, Tim Cook says, I don't know. And which seems a little bit strange. Many people found that strange, that he wouldn't know how much Google pays to be the default search engine in the iPhone, for example. And then when asked other questions, he just repeatedly referred to, I don't know, which, maybe that's what his legal counsel told him to say. And maybe he took some kind of medication prior to the trial, so that he could, maybe it was a Men in Black type of device they have internally to erase his memory, and maybe honestly he doesn't remember. But so it'll be interesting to see, because the decision in this trial will be coming up very soon, no doubt, and that could have very big impacts for app developers globally, because it might force Apple to lower their rate of 30%, and it might force Google to do the same. A related headline is that Snapchat CEO Evan Spiegel says that Snapchat is very happy to pay Apple's 30% commission, quoting that Snapchat wouldn't even exist without the iPhone, so he feels it's only fair that they pay 30% to Apple as a result of that. So it's an interesting to see Snapchat coming to Apple's defense in that case. And I want to pause there to see if others have headlines that they would like to share, and make sure my mic is still working.
Just a quick one on that, Tyler. This is Michelle speaking.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because Snapchat has always been iOS first, even the way they develop their product. So it's only very recently that they considered scaling in Android first market. So I think that, to me, sort of makes sense, that statement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then, well, it's yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would add, this is LS. It's intriguing, Tyler, you brought this up, because I think this is about edge computing in the next 3 to 5 years of that wealth that will be created. And I'm not just talking in, MA knows this, gaming and AR or VR, but what you're looking at is Snapchat. There's certain things that will be binary, A to B, where, it's just social media. But there's other platforms where you can actually start building in your own ecosystem. And if Epic can do that with gaming and crypto, and you're playing a game but you're using fake currency or made up currency in the game, but then that translates to real currency or cryptocurrency in the future, you're talking about a whole nexus and new economic order that's outside of the world we're looking at. I think this case, in my opinion, they're looking at the next 6 to 10 years. They're not worried about today, and that's why it's gotten to this level, in my opinion.
Yeah. So other really interesting news happening at the moment. There's a company called Citizen App, and Citizen App is testing on-demand private security service that will respond to incidents as requested by the app's users. Has anybody heard of this app? I got to tweet this from the Tech News Around the World Twitter account. This seems really wild. I got to read this. I'm not familiar with it myself, but it seems like
I did actually see that and was pondering about sending it to you.
Yeah. So it says, I just tweeted it out from Tech News Around the World, TNATW. It says, leaked emails show that crime app Citizen is testing on-demand security force. Citizen would deploy private security forces at the request of app users, according to documents and sources. Crime and neighborhood watch app Citizen has ambitions to deploy private security workers to the scene of disturbances at the request of app users, according to leaked internal Citizen documents and Citizen sources. The plans mark a dramatic expansion of Citizen's purview. It is currently an app where users report incidents in their neighborhoods, and based on those reports and police scanner transcriptions, the app sends real-time safety alerts to users about crime and other incidents happening near where a user is located. It is essentially a mapping app that allows users to both report and learn about crime or what others on the app perceive to be a crime in their neighborhood. The introduction of in-person private security forces drastically alters the service and a potential impact that Citizen may offer in the future, and provides more context as to why Citizen-branded vehicle has been spotted driving around Los Angeles. The news comes after Citizen offered a $30,000 bounty against a person it falsely accused of starting a wildfire. And that was from a headline about 2 days ago, where this Citizen app, it started out as an app where citizens in a city would be reporting crimes happening in their areas, right? And other citizens in that area would see what other citizens are reporting. So you would see that your neighbor just got, attacked by, somebody in their own home, for example. And now, and that's useful for both fronts. People can report crimes. People can see the crimes that their neighbors are reporting. Okay, simple enough. However, it's now what happened 48 hours ago is somebody falsely accused somebody of committing arson. And that made some interesting headlines. And now Citizen, very recently, in the past 24 hours or so, is offering now a $30,000 bounty against a person that it falsely accused of starting this wildfire. And now the newest headline, just in the last few hours, is that Citizen now has it's a vehicle, which you can see the vehicle in the blog post from Vice.com. It says Los Angeles Professional Security. It's branded as Citizen, and it says on the side of the car, making your world a safer place, as if it's a police vehicle, but it says in small font, private patrol. And essentially, they're offering the app users like private security, like they're acting like private police. And this is a very interesting concept because citizens are becoming less trusting of the police, especially minorities in certain areas no longer trust the police. And so with this app, if you need help, Citizen would come and act as the police, but they're not from the government, they're private, because you're a private citizen and they're acting on your behalf, not on the government's behalf, to settle whatever issue is happening if somebody's breaking into your home or whatever. And this is a wildly disruptive concept, which is, would you, if you paid $10 a month for this app, for example, and all of the money of all of the users would go to paying for private security, who could come to you instantly, or anyone in your neighborhood who also pays for the app. Am I making sense here?
Yeah, one of the things when I saw that was about this will make it possible to actually see a crime map by people by people.
Right. Well, yes, exactly. You're going to see a map in real time of the crimes being reported around you in your neighborhood, right? That's obviously part of it. But more interestingly, that was how it started, but now it's sort of evolving into, a replacement for the police, because you're paying for their salary. They're going to work for you. The cost is shared amongst all the users of the app in your area. And by the way, this happens in a military context. You have, the U.S. Army goes in and does things, and then the U.S. government also hires private patrols, right, who go and do special things that the Army isn't best suited to do, because they don't want to be sued. And so, let's hire this private company to go do this particular mission, because we don't want to mess it up and then be blamed as the U.S. government for doing this, right? So there's this one degree of separation, and that private company is responsible for what they do. We just hired them to do it. And then it speaks to this point on a local level in your own town or city. I'm from Los Angeles, and I can tell you a lot of people in LA don't like the LA police. I used to live next door to LA Police Grand Central Station, in downtown.
Tyler,
yeah.
This really surfaces a lot of controversial, not just issues, but there's going to be a lot of conflicts around this, starting with the fact that, the collection of information and reporting is very subjective, and let alone, the legislation around what can private security do, and what's the limitation, and what is the use of force, and a variety of things that, traditionally certified, individuals have the power to do. So it's going to be fascinating and potentially challenging in a very difficult way if this starts to flourish. And my assumption would be that the examples that they're going to use are going to be in the high dense areas that have a lot of problems versus the suburb areas where, it's a little bit easier. I'm just being drawing a very broad sword here, but those high dense populated areas, that's where it's going to be very difficult to navigate this.
Yeah.
Marvin, this is LS. I'm sorry. But I would add the other side of that. I think it's interesting to me because I think, and I grew up in a hood in Compton, LA. I think this is a way that with people, 7 billion people have mobile phones. They can check the police, because if it is private and it's customer base or consumer base, someone has to write a check, right? So you're right, they have authority, power, data. But then if you have like a police force, they have an incentive. There's no proof of what they do, right? So if they're paid by the state, local, or federal government, because police reform, I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think it will just sweep the way it's expecting to sweep in the U.S. for Black Lives Matter, et cetera. And it doesn't matter. Reform doesn't mean replace or omit or take away. It's almost like, these private securities are there. There's a check and balance. There's a system to balance the other system. Because right now the system is whatever the police say, the chiefs say, whatever occurred. And if someone's lucky enough to get a video, they do. If they're unlucky, they're unlucky. And I'm not saying a lot of people are doing bad shit, so they should be arrested and go to jail and everything. I was in the Marine Corps. So it's how do you balance that out? Because the cities are always going to support the officers because it's just an in line thinking. And so, like Tyler brought it up, this is a really intriguing thing on check and balances of systems for on the ground and real activity, and how do you verify it?
Yeah, and it makes me think of China. Like the social credit score in China is not like just a one sweep across the country. It's the application of it is different in different regions, and like there are people who are employed by the government to like also keep track of people's like good deeds. There'd be like someone who'll walk about with a notebook and go, Dave did a good deed. He may be only a 320, but give him some more points because he did a good deed of letting someone across the road, and then I might be able to hire the bike. The so what here, I think, is like it makes me think of like the that sort of frame. Like, to what extent, whenever these things go out, will the data then become a score on the people because it's a bit more precise than the police doing it?
Yeah, here's a couple more interesting comments in this article. It says currently Citizen offers a subscription product called Protect, which costs $19.99 per month, so $20 a month. Protect sends a user's location to Citizen when it's turned on. So you can safely walk home, for example. And then it can also stream video to the Protect service when activated using a safe word. So without even touching the phone and by saying a word, it will start the camera so that if you feel threatened, you just say the safe word and the camera starts rolling. And this is being pitched to users as a digital bodyguard. This Protect service also advertises instant emergency response to your exact location and says live monitoring means you'll never have to walk alone. It is not clear if the private security response would be tied to Protect or another service. Securitas, which is another huge security company for like businesses in very popular in California, did not respond to a request for comment. Los Angeles Professional Security acknowledged a request for comment but did not provide a response in time for publication. Experts have criticized Citizen, saying the app may lead people to report things that aren't crime and may foster racism. And here's a quote. Honestly, Citizen as an app simply doesn't need to exist, and it's more and more apparent as the months go on that leadership is just a bunch of scum, a former employee said. So, but
I'm just thinking this through for the UK, Tyler, how it might work. It's pretty fascinating. So, I mean, for instance, if you had this service in the UK and somebody tried to respond, one of the challenges they'd have to get over is if they were to respond to a call and drive over the speed limit, they would be committing a road traffic act offence by speeding. The only people who are exempt for that are response drivers and beyond in the police. So that would be an interesting thing. You'd have to go there pretty slow, although actually a lot of the UK police do drive at normal speed because they're not qualified to drive at high speed. That would be one thing. I'm thinking there will be a whole bunch of people reporting crimes that aren't yet crimes. So the whole, let's get back at our friend by saying he's beating his wife type of thing, or whatever. That would be an interesting technical challenge to solve. And then the use of force somebody mentioned before. That's an interesting one because there are once you invoke police powers, you have the right to use more force than a normal civilian, although UK civilians have got a reasonable amount of force they can use under common law self-defense, under Section 24A of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, under Section 113 of the Criminal Justice Act, but there are others. Civilians actually have a lot of powers to use force in the UK. The police get some extra powers. So yeah, it's just sending my brain into a spin about whether that could work in the UK. Maybe a good startup. They would have some. It would be difficult to do everything the police do without actually committing an offence yourself, and then having the police arresting you while you're trying to help somebody else. It'd be a right shit show. I'm just trying to imagine it playing out.
Well, but also, how do you account for that? Because I think the best thing we've done as a society is to export the use of violence to governments, or like to a higher entity. And for all the flaws that it has, I mean, especially as of late we've seen in the US, I think it's still the least worst scenario is to have a police force having the monopoly of violence. And I don't think that hiring a private company could be in any remotely a good idea, to just give someone a sort of a space to exert violence like that. And so, and the private company, we don't know, or does it say in the article? I don't know. Maybe Tyler can answer that. But how do they work with law enforcement? Because they'll show up to the house and defend it or protect it or whatever. But the person who's trying to break in or to commit an offense, how do they get prosecuted afterwards?
Yeah, in the UK, I don't know how it would extrapolate to the US, and I'd love somebody who knows the laws to say, but in the UK, civilians can do quite a lot. But the difference between a civilian and an officer, there's a couple of things. Firstly, a civilian can only intervene if using force when they're not directly under threat themselves. If you're directly under threat yourself, you common law self-defense, no problem. If you want to intervene using force as a civilian, otherwise, you've got the person who's doing something wrong has got to be committing an indictable or serious crime. I don't know what the US laws are, but in the UK, there's a difference between an indictable, a serious crime that would go to the Crown Court, and a simple crime. And civilians would only be allowed to help with indictable crimes. And there's also the other difference police officers have is that you have the power to deal with things before they happen and after they've happened, whereas civilians can only get themselves involved in a crime while it's happening. If that makes sense. You can't, as a civilian, go up to somebody and say, "Oh, I suspect you might commit a crime," and you can't say, "Oh, I noticed you did commit a crime," 3 weeks later, and knock on their door. You simply don't have the powers to do that. So they would be, and I don't know how that would play out in the States, but the severity and then the timing, whether it's now or past future, they would be two differentiations in the UK. I don't know about other places.
Another thing that I'm thinking about is real quick is
Tyler, are you there, Tyler?
Really,
I'm here.
Okay, great.
Yeah. The other thing I'm just thinking about is how, is this actually touching a need? I mean, is there a willingness to pay? And I think there is. I mean, this is when you think about it, it's kind of benchmarking this a little. When you think about the online doctors, just kind of as a quick example, there was a lot of discussion 10 years ago how this is impossible. There's a lot of legal issues. It's not going to happen. And also with I guess parking tickets, wasn't that a police issue before too? But now it's just companies doing all that. Securitas also. So there's a space here that's not being met. So maybe this is not the solution, but I think there is.
Guys, can I